So welcome everybody to our final instalment of our Tour de France. Great to have you on board again. Hope you enjoyed week 3 as much as we did. It was lots of fun exploring the Rhone. And as always, a couple of introductions to make just before we kick off. I'm Luke, one of the senior wine brokers here. We've got Mark Faber, our head wine buyer. Good evening, Mark.
Evening all. Glad you could all join us for our final going out with a bang here.
Now, back is Alistair Cooper, Master of Wine, as well as writing for Genesis, Decanter and the BBC. Alistair is our wine consultant over in Europe and has actually been responsible for most of the wine that we've drunk this tour. So great to have you back on board, Ali.
Great to be here. Sorry I missed last week, everyone. I had some family things to attend to, some other things. So sad to have missed you, but back this week and we got some cracking wines to taste. So look forward to it. But nice to see you all.
Good stuff. So as always, we've got a very special guest in for wine number 2 and helping out on wine number 3. Daniel Arudi. So Daniel has a WSET level 4 diploma. He's also got over 15 years worth of experience running and owning restaurants around the world. But most importantly for us this evening, Daniel is one of the foremost experts on Bordeaux in Australia. And after having lived in Bordeaux and representing a few of the chateaus as well, he brings a real wealth of knowledge to the tasting this evening. So great to have you on board, Daniel.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. Zooming in from the northeast state of Victoria.
Fantastic. And then finally, Jane Moore. Jane's looking after the Facebook feed, the texting competition, and basically keeping everything going for the hour and a quarter this evening. So welcome, Jane.
Evening, everyone. Should be a good one tonight.
Beautiful. So if we can move on, Mark. In all the excitement from last week, as the most astute of you noticed, I completely forgot to spin the wheel of wine, which I massively apologise for. Well done to Christian, who won. I'm sure there'll be a nice bottle of wine heading your way. And this is a big reveal. This is the leaderboard for week 3. Well done to Brad and Rachel for the top marks there in the Maillot Jaune. But as always, it's all to play for. I make it 5 or 6 of you that could come off with the top prize. And of course, everybody who's not in the pole position, remember that you can win your favorite wine of the night as we will spin the wheel of wine this week. So just to double check it, it's an incorrect answer gets you 1 entry, a correct answer gets you 3 entries. And it's always a great opportunity to win your favorite. So that's all that. Now, just to show you what the winners of the leaderboard will win, if you can just move it on. Thank you, Mark. Pretty good prize, in my opinion. It's a $100 voucher to Frenchies. Now, you can use that either through the meal kits or in person in their restaurant. And then a bottle of white Chablis and a bottle of the Bordeaux that we're tasting this evening. So fantastic prize. So good luck to you guys. We'll be revealing that at the end. As always, it's our last tasting, so we want things to be as interactive as possible. Please feel free to unmute anytime. Use the comment section if you'd like to. We're always welcoming your tasting notes and any questions that you have to our experts this evening. Now, just moving forward, we thought because it's the last week, we'd mention what's upcoming. As you can see there, on the 1st of October, we've got a deep dive into Rippon with Nick Mills. And then on the 8th, we are looking at the head wines from the Barossa. And then we thought we'd also mention something a little bit different that I'm going to throw over to Ali for. There was a lot of inspiration with the wines from Rhone last week. And Ali's actually going to be traveling to the Rhone in a few weeks. So I'm going to throw over to you, Ali, and you can just introduce this one to everybody.
Sure. Yeah, so as we've talked, and as many of you will know, I work with Jancis Robinson. I cover South America for her. That's one of my areas of expertise, but I do write on all sorts. So she's asked me this year to go over to the Rhone Valley and do the en primeur tasting, so tasting all the new wines from 2019 vintage, from Châteauneuf du Pape all the way up to Côte Rôtie, Hermitage. So I'll be able to be tasting some of the greatest wine, the La Moulin, the Lalas, the Guigal wines. We'll be tasting Rias, going to Rias. So it's very exciting. I have 900 wines to be covering, and I'll be doing, while I'm out there, I will be sending over some video clips, so hopefully you can keep up with me and I can share some of my adventures in the Rhone Valley. And then when I come back, we'll be looking to do some Rhone features, because I'm a huge Rhone fan. And I want to be sharing some of these wines with you. So there'll be some live updates and videos coming over for you to follow. And then we're going to get some dates together to do some Rhone tasting. So the one caveat, of course, is hopefully coronavirus will allow me to travel. At the moment, my flights are booked and it's all looking good, but things do change. But if nothing changes, I'm really looking forward to it. So from the 4th to the 16th of October, and then we'll be getting a date in to do some fun, interesting and updated versions of the Rhone Valley for you. So looking very much forward to it.
Amazing. Looking forward to that. Now, just finally, feels like a long time away, but for us, it's just around the corner. If you've enjoyed these Zoom tastings and you're needing to effectively organise a socially distanced Christmas party, either with work or family, we'd love to help you out. We can organise these tastings. The great thing about them is, it's all remote, and we love to do them. So if it's something that is on the radar and you're looking to organise something fun and engaging, give us a shout. You can email me or any of the team, and we can explore it with you. So keep that on the radar. So that is that. Let's have a quick recap of what we did last week, and then I'll throw to Ali for the Sancerre. So whilst I'm explaining, please feel free to get that into the glass. So we went to Provence and had a look at the Val d'Ester Rosé. Then we moved into the vineyards of Saint-Joseph with the Les Alexandrines. And then finally, we had a look at the Chateau Neuf from Herediter, which based on the feedback and the orders of that wine, it was definitely the wine of the night. So moving forward, we're going to be heading into the Loire Valley, into Sancerre with the André Dezat. Then we're going to move into Burgundy and focus firstly on the left bank.
Bordeaux.
Apologies, Bordeaux. Got that one wrong. Bordeaux. And then we're going to hop across the Dordogne and head into the right bank with the Le Fleur Pennine as well. So 3 amazing wines to get through. This for me is the one I've been looking forward to. So without further ado, I'm going to throw over to Ali to have a look at the Dezat.
Okay, great. First of all, I thought, actually, can we go back one step, Luke, to the previous slide? Just great. I'm just going to give, because we're looking at the Loire Valley, and I just want to mention a few things about the Loire before we focus on the Sancerre, because the Loire is a really important region in France. It's a pretty marginal climate, so it's fairly far north. Here we are. So I'm just going to talk for a minute or two about the other parts of the Loire that we're not looking at today before we get to the part we are looking at. So starting in the west, the Loire Valley obviously is based around the Loire River. The whole valley is around 500 kilometers long, so it's a very extensive area. About 70,000 hectares in total. I think it's the 4th largest planted area in France. So starting in the west, we've got here Nantes. Hopefully you can all see that. There we go, where the hand is. And here we have the wines that are called Muscadet. These are some of the most underrated wines in France, the best seafood wines you can find, made from the Melon de Bourgogne grape. And Mark and I have been talking about this because we think this is something that should be drunk far more in Australia. It's the ultimate seafood wine, saline, fresh, zippy, and something that we're looking at getting into to United to share with you guys. So I'm talking to a few guys over there to get some really good value Muscadet, because I think that's what you guys should be drinking over there, especially in the summer. Then we move along. We've got around Anjou. We've got the main heartland of the Loire Valley. And here we have Saumur, we have a Savagnier, we have Coteau de Lion. That's all the Chenin Blanc grape variety. And in reds, we have Bourgueil and we have Chinon, which is Cabernet Franc. So here you get some really light, zippy, crunchy red wines, much like Beaujolais. And in the whites there, they can be quite rich and some great sweet wines as well. Moving on to Tours. Actually, there we've got the Bourgueil and Chinon. Here is, again, Chenin, but also some fantastic Sauvignon Blanc. And this is where Sauvignon Blanc starts to kick in. Really nice, grassy, herbaceous Sauvignon Blancs. And then we head over to where we're going to look at now, Sancerre. So this area here is the central vineyards of France, the central vineyards of the Loire Valley, and Sancerre is king. So here we've got Sauvignon Blanc. So I hope you've all got it poured in your glass. Interestingly enough, Sancerre is known for its Sauvignon Blanc, but it was only planted there after phylloxera. It used to be a Pinot Noir area. And here, although we're in the Loire Valley, we're far closer to Burgundy. The similarities between Sancerre and Chablis are great. They have the same soil type, Kimmeridgian, flint, chalky limestone soils. So it's very different to the west of the Loire Valley and far more similar to Burgundy. So I hope you've got this all poured, and then we can probably go on to the next slide. Mark, anything you want to add before we get stuck into the Sancerre?
Thanks, Ali. That's a fantastic intro to the wines of Sancerre and also the Loire Valley in general. Just from my perspective here as the wine buyer, the wines of the Loire Valley have always been, or have quite often been, almost forgotten in Australia. And it's almost like, and as Ali just said, being the fourth largest production region in France, you would think that they would have a lot more success being so big, but we tend to kind of circle all around it, but never quite go into that area. And if you think about it, Sauvignon Blanc is one of our biggest selling grape varieties here in Australia. So it would make sense that it would work. And as Ali mentioned, the muscadets, I mean, some of the muscadets that we tried, that I tried when I visited Ali last year, I mean, they were just absolutely perfect for what we drink and what we eat, our lifestyle here in Australia. So looking very forward to testing the waters with that here. So still to these days, to this day, I don't quite know why Loire has never really taken off in Australia. But hopefully we can change your mind with this first wine. So
that's what I thought. I remember we talked about this, and I asked, why Sancerre wasn't big, because in the UK market, Sancerre and Chablis are very, very important white wines. Probably the most famous French white wines. You've got Burgundy, but everyone knows the name Sancerre and Chablis. They might not know they're made from Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay, but they're very, very famous wines. So here we are. This is the André Dezat estate, is it?
That's correct.
So this is the Dezat estate. So I've just want to go through a few things about what in my opinion makes Sancerre so kind of unique and special, and really I hope you can taste this, because I'm sure pretty much everyone who's joining us this evening has had at least one glass in their life of Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. Hands up if you've had a Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc before. Yep, that's a lot of hands. That's a lot of hands. That's not at all anything to be. That's not at all surprising. Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc is absolutely everywhere. As when it was in the first few years, it was known as the Savalanche in my industry, and it really was absolutely in every bar, in every pub, in every restaurant, in every bottle shop. It was just absolutely everywhere. Oyster Bay was the big one, and I hopefully can see. That you can see the difference between Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc and what we have in our glass here, and what makes this much more of a unique style of wine. And you can see that the quality level, we're kind of jumping up a little bit here. So the first thing is the continental climate. As you can see in this image here that Luke's put up, there really is, we really are landlocked. And as Ali mentioned, we're closer to Burgundy, and as most specifically Chablis, we're closer to that than we are to the water. So it's very, very continental. It means you get warm days, cold nights. The ocean doesn't influence it as much, and it's and in the summer it can get quite warm, so you get some nice ripeness, but it's always quite cold at night, just like in Chablis. There is a good amount of rainfall that you get in Sancerre, which is important for Sauvignon Blanc. There's a saying in winemaking, Sauvignon Blanc, it loves having its feet wet. It hates drought, never goes well in drought. It always likes to have a lot of water around, which is why it does so well in New Zealand, let's be honest. So there's a lot of rainfall that comes off the Bay of Biscay to the west, and that gives it a lot of water. But most importantly is the soils. In Sancerre, the soils are everything. As Ali touched on it slightly, but it's these amazing limestone soils and very, very unique soil called silex. So silex is I'm just going to put the screen back on my one, if you don't mind, Luke.
Of course, yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, Mark.
Yeah, right.
Perhaps, I mean, for those of us who are still getting our heads around Sauvignon Blanc, could you just give us a quick kind of summary, or potentially Ali, of what a typical Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc is compared to this, just so we're on the same page? Maybe Ali, you can jump in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. I think hopefully we've all tasted this, and I've seen someone posted this is a big step up from Marlborough, and I totally agree. I think the very different styles. So we've got quite different climates. What we've got here with this Des Sancerre, first of all, 2018 was one of the greatest vintages the Loire has seen. So this is a slightly richer style than maybe normal for Sancerre, but a very, very good vintage. But here you've got these lemon, lime, mineral, flinty, slightly smoky, subtle, herbaceous, maybe grassy notes in this wine. If we think of Marlborough Sauvignon, we might think more of passion fruit, we might think more of gooseberry, we might think more of tomato vine leaf, you know, when you rub your hands on the green vines. A lot riper, a lot more tropical than this style. And that's down to several things. UV light, it's down to the way that grapes are harvested even, from hand harvesting versus machine harvesting. There's lots of difference, but essentially Marlborough is that more tropical, ripe, pungent style. And this, as you can taste, is far more subtle. And as Mark was saying, a lot is to do with those Kimmeridgian, flinty, chalky silex soils that he was just mentioning that we also find in Chablis. So yeah, I'll let you go back, Mark, to this one, the slide we've got on here, to talk just a little bit more about that.
Absolutely, mate. Thank you very much. And the big point I wanted to make with that point on soil is, as you're absolutely bang on, but that I can taste this in the glass. And in all honesty, there's a lot of there's a lot of debate back and forth whether soil is something that you can actually taste in a wine. But what I know is that the massive difference that I find between this and even the absolute best Marlborough Sauvignon Blancs is that flinty character, that real struck match, mineral, gravelly kind of character that is just, and it really goes well. It just is so perfectly balanced in this wine.
Yeah, this is a great. I really like Andre Dezin as a producer. It's great that we've got this because it's a producer I've known for a long time and tasted, and they're just really fantastic value for money. Tick all the boxes of classic Sancerre. I think they're a large producer. They have about 38 hectares. They have some land in Pouilly-Fumé as well. And Pouilly-Fumé, look out for Pouilly-Fumé as well. Munitou Salon, there's some great value wines from Quincy-Renier as well. The satellite villages around Sancerre. And I'd love to get some feedback from everyone, because obviously everyone here, maybe, you know, as we've seen, hands up, knows all about Marlborough Sauvignon, but what about this Sancerre? Because for me, this is just such a step up. It's a subtle, minerally, as we said, grassy wine, and really good.
For me, honestly, this is for me. It makes me realise why Sauvignon Blanc was planted in the first place.
Yeah,
Sometimes like you look at the end product. You look at after decades of planting, you know, Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. Which is now, as of today, it's now 75% of New Zealand's production, which is an insane amount. And you think of one region being 75% of production of one whole country. It's just incredible.
It's really interesting because we are now drinking this Sancerre. This is the spiritual heartland. This is the home of Sauvignon Blanc. This is where it reaches, for me, its apogee with producers like Didier Dagenot. But let's be honest, Marlborough has become the real heartland, and it was only planted there in 1978. So hugely impressive what they've done in Marlborough in such a small space of time. But this is a more marginal, for me, crisper, lighter, fresher, better style, dare I say it, of Sauvignon.
Amazing.
So any feedback?
I'm quite keen to open up the floor and ask some people for their tasting notes and comments. Michael, you commented sensational. Would you care to expand?
I can find out how. Hello. I've turned the microphone on now.
Excellent.
So we've had the pleasure of visiting Loire, and the message that I sent to Luke after that was, we'll need no encouragement to drink more wine, so do your best.
Good
Brilliant.
man.
And this is really lovely and very different to Marlborough,
Yeah.
which we don't like.
I think there are definitely some great Marlboroughs out there. You know, they've done some amazing things, and there's some subtle styles and different styles, haven't there? But I think it
You're
makes
a marvellous politician, Ali.
well,
I know.
yeah, I have to be diplomatic because
My mother over in the UK would be so disappointed to hear the Marlborough bashing that's happening this evening.
as would my mother. That's basically all she drinks. So you know, it's the same.
If you like Passiona, it's fantastic.
That's it. But this is, you know, I remember asking you, Mark, when I was in Australia last time. I said, why do people not drink more? What, you know, Chablis is a big thing in Australia. You know, why are people not drinking more Sancerre? Because for me, it tick. And you said, well, it's just quite a hard sell because of the Sauvignon thing. And I think we should do a push on this and get people drinking more of this.
Yeah, it's almost like we've now been trained by Marlborough to think that Sauvignon Blanc has to be kind of $20 and under. And Sancerre's not $20 and under, you know.
That's true.
And if it is, you don't want it. So
No, that's
I'm
true.
gonna jump in and pick on Charles and Ana Rosa, if you don't mind. I'd love to know what you think and what you're eating with the Sancerre.
I'm very keen to hear this because not everyone knows this, but Charles and Ana Rosa are actually vegans. So I'm always keen to hear. They don't have cheeses to fall back on.
Okay.
We were catered to tonight by our lovely next door neighbours.
We are sitting on the side. No, just make them just for
And Dan is a fantastic vegan cook. So what we had was Lebanese garlic. What is it called, Jan?
Just Lebanese garlic oil dip.
Lebanese garlic oil dip. Beautiful hummus.
Only lemon hummus, not strong.
Yeah, lemon with a bit of lemon in it. What was that pissaldière that you made?
Oh, that was just a little roasted tomato tartare.
Roasted tomato tartare. And some beautiful fresh breads. And a few cheeses. Vegan cheeses.
Wow.
Yeah.
One very sloppy French bread.
Yeah.
That's
Amazing.
That sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
What she thinks of the wine. She loves the wine.
I really love the wine. It's interesting that it's not as cat pea-ish as the New Zealand ones, although we all agree we really adore the New Zealand ones too, but they just have a different character.
Such a good descriptor. I always love using that one.
We were just saying, what was the name of that?
There was a wine at a supermarket in New Zealand once called Cat's Pea on a Gooseberry Bush.
Oh my gosh.
Pea on a gooseberry bush.
Typical us Kiwis leaning into it.
Yeah. So
Yeah, exactly right.
Not
That was great.
on a gooseberry bush. It has a slightly different personality. Well, very different personality, and they're both gorgeous. But I really like this. I could drink this, and it's beautiful. What do you think, Jan? It's beautiful with food as well.
It's got a very, very fine, sharp edge to it that no New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc has.
Yeah,
Definitely.
brilliant. That's
Fantastic.
Great.
Great. Yeah, no, awesome feedback. Now, being slightly conscious of Daniel's time, because Daniel, I know you have another tasting to attend at 7:30. I think we will now move on. So whilst everybody is pouring wine number 2, I'm just going to read out the question and always text in to the number in the corner of the screen there. So the question is, in 1985, a new record price of approximately $156,000 was paid for a bottle of 1787 Chateau Lafite. Now, which past US president was it thought to have been owned by? So remember, 1, 2, 3, or 4, your name, email to that number, and you'll get a chance to win your favorite wine and also go into the leaderboard.
So who knows the US
I
presidents?
know the answer.
Who knows the US presidents? Who was alive in 1787?
I know the answer. Damn it! I should be allowed to.
This was a bit of a controversial one. There was actually a book written about this.
One, second, none.
So make that about 30 seconds.
Yeah, just checking, no Googling going on. Suspicious activity. Any suspicious activity.
Hello there.
Was there a Starkey house?
Yep, there you go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I just wanted to go, but I'm sorry you've moved on, but we just managed to find the right button. I wanted to make a comment. I'm Peter, my name's Pierre Vilkins. I'm just making a comment on the Sancerre. We used to, my wife and I used to drink copious amounts of New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, and really we loved that. I know you were talking about that, but the Sancerre, the last time we had it was 2013 when we were touring the Canal de Midi. And the Sancerre is, it's much, it's next level. It's flatter on the palate. It's, it's a beautiful experience. You go through your Sauvignon Blanc days and then you get to the Sancerre days. The Sancerre, and we're having it here with the Starkies. It's quite sensuous, and I'm not making this up. It's just really gorgeous on the palate, but it's a flatter taste. It's not hard. It's not aggressive, and some people like that aggressive Sauvignon Blanc, but the Sancerre sort of just, it flattens the palate out, but it's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And with tasting notes like that, I'm sure Anthony will offer you a job. That was amazing.
That was brilliant. And so true as well. And I'd love to push more Sauvignon, more Sancerre, we've talked about. And how lucky you were to go down the Midi. Beautiful.
Okay, let's move on and involve Daniel. So just to let everybody know, of course, it was answer number 1, Thomas Washington. Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Washington. What am I talking about?
Thomas Washington.
Famous president.
The third president of the United States. Previously, he was the ambassador to France, so he spent a lot of his time in the vineyards of Bordeaux. The bottle was initiated with THJ, and it was bought by Malcolm Forbes. However, in the last decade, its legitimacy has been pretty contentious, as outlined in the book The Billionaire's Vinegar, which is definitely worth a read.
Definitely. It's a great book.
Great book.
Okay, fantastic. So let's move on, and I'm going to throw over to Daniel. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you, Luke. Thanks, Mark and Anthony. Good evening, everyone. Brilliant to be with you there. I apologize about my surroundings. I'm in my kids' homeschooling room based in Melbourne. We still all enclosed in our cages at the moment. So apologies for not being in a much nicer surrounding. We're looking at 2 wines tonight, and when we look at Bordeaux, it's always nice to compare, obviously, left bank and right bank. On the left bank and the right bank of Bordeaux is quite simply put. Southwest of France, you have this estuary, what we call La Gironde, which is that big water inlet that splits Bordeaux wine region in half, literally, where you have 2 large rivers emptying in the estuary. You have La Garonne, which is a river that comes from the Mediterranean, the sea, in the Mediterranean Sea, empties into the Gironde, and then you have the Dordogne River that comes in from that Massif Central center of France, essentially the mountains in the center of France, and it splits Bordeaux quite obviously in half. And on the left side, where the Médoc here in that dark red patch, this is a region that is only quite recent in terms of the last 1,000 years. I mean, this is a region of France that is obviously it's a peninsula. That was
Daniel, would you sorry to interrupt you, mate, would you mind, I've just got a little slide here just to give everyone a bit of a really quick wrap up of the history, just to bring us into the modern era here, but because it's got such a fascinating history. So do you mind if I quickly just run through this one? Because I mean, you could go on for hours on this, honestly, but it was very hard for me to kind of summarize this into one page. But I mean, the region was first mentioned in 379 CE, but And Ausonius, Chateau Ausone is actually named after this Latin poet Ausonius. But there's a big gap between where it was first mentioned and when it actually became a wine region, as Daniel just mentioned. It was a port city, Bordeaux, and it really expanded during the 12th century. And as boat building became better and better and better, it became a big boat building city and sent a lot of famous people around the world. So, and then of course the 100 Years' War during the Dark Ages, which, as many of you who know your history would know, went for a lot longer than 100 years. It was a lot of the summary of it would have been the English and the French fighting over Bordeaux. So it's that ultimately the end result is that claret, as the British still call Bordeaux wine, became very, very popular in London and the London coffee and tea houses, and then ultimately into the rest of England. And then in the 17th century, as Daniel just said, the Medoc was actually drained by the Dutch, and it was turned into vineyards. And then, of course, the famous 1855 classification, and I've just realised I've spelt Medoc incorrectly there. I apologise for my spelling error. But the very, very famous 1855 classification of the Medoc and Sauternes, and that was written up, which still stands today. So that's where we find ourselves now. So sorry, Daniel, back to you, mate.
No, the problem. So it's great. As you just said, and quite rightly so. I mean, this is the kind of things that we can talk. I can certainly talk about Bordeaux for hours on end. I absolutely love it, and it's to keep it in a short presentation is always a challenge for me, to be honest with you. So I appreciate the help there. So we are looking at two wines. The first we have Confidence de Prieuré Lichine, which I love. I love what you guys are doing with the Google Earth. It's really puts this presentation to life as far as I'm concerned. So you can really see the very big difference in geographical difference, should I say, about the two wines we're looking at. So the Prieuré Lichine left bank, for me, it is quite a really good representation of a Margaux estate in terms of the tannin structure, the finesse. You see that as we're zooming in, it's very, very close to the river. So that really benefits from that tempering of that body of water compared to the right bank. What does it mean for the wine? I personally believe that it creates a consistency of quality of vintage compared to more inland vineyards, because of being closer to that river. You have a frost protection, you have a lot of that finer gravels where Cabernet reigns king due to this. It just loves having a dry root system, dry fit, compared to Sauvignon Blanc, as Mark was saying, loves to have a lot of water on the root system. Cabernet doesn't. It loves that gravelly soil, free draining, that warming effect of the gravels that tend to have on the fruit. It is really when you drive up what we call La Route de Château in the Médoc, you can't miss Prieuré Lichine because it's really on your left there, and it's just a kilometer and a half down the road from Château Palmer on the further north in the Médoc. You have Rosan-Ségla around. You'll have Château Margaux, of course, a little bit further up. So it's quite a nice neighborhood for Prieuré Lichine. They make a little bit of white wine as well, which of course is called Bordeaux Blanc, but it really I think highlights that terroir of that fine gravel and sand that we find in Margaux. It's to me, Confidence de Prieuré Lichine really embodies the appellation nicely without breaking the bank. It's just quite a good value wine, really. Great vintage, 2015, and then the 2016 that we'll see after. That a really good pair of vintages that we find ourselves in tonight for Bordeaux. Just got that lovely vintage for Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon, really.
I think that's...
And as you were talking, there, Daniel. We were looking at, I'll bring them back up, some of the photos that I found off their social media pages this week of the harvest.
They started the Merlot on Monday, finished their white last Saturday. Yeah,
amazing.
So Merlot really should be with the forecast in Bordeaux. Looks pretty decent. So they have a nice ripening season now. For Merlot started, but then you'll start looking at Cabernet Franc and Cabernet Sauvignon in about 3 weeks' time, I believe, from what I've been told so far.
Now,
So,
Daniel,
Jen-
Brad has asked the question: what is this blend made of?
So this blend is so it changes every year. So I've actually printed my little cheat paper before just to make sure I had the exact breakdown proper. So because it's second label, it contains a little bit less Cabernet Sauvignon than the Grand Vin. Typically speaking, it's a wine made to be drunk a little bit earlier, despite the fact that I think it's got a lot of aging to go still. You got exactly 54% Cabernet Sauvignon, 38% Merlot, 6% Petit Verdot, and 2% Cabernet Franc. So it's quite a I really believe it's quite a decent classic blend for Margaux appellation. Margaux tends to have a little bit more Merlot than further north in the Medoc.
I agree. I think I'm just going to jump in there if I can. That's great sort of rundown of Margaux. And I would say, I'd like to see what everyone else thinks here, but this is, anyone that's aware with Margaux, this just shows at a really good price what Margaux should be, a slightly more, and we'll see the difference when we go over to Saint-Emilion, but Margaux is well known for being a very perfumed, aromatic, silky wine. And I think this shows that really well. And I totally agree with Daniel. I think this is a wine that's drinking well now. It can definitely age. And that's one of the great things about Bordeaux. Well, great if you've got a cellar to age the wines in. It can age for such a long time. But value for money coming from a great vintages. Bordeaux's been really lucky since the turn of the century. There's only been about probably 3 really shocking vintages, and the rest of them have been really, really great. But I think this is looking very aromatic, very, very violety, very pure, very clean, at a really good price point for Bordeaux. Very different to the Coonawarra cabs that we get in Australia.
Yeah. Keen to open up the floor for some tasting notes. How about the Colmers? Stephen, what are your thoughts on this one?
Luke.
There we go.
We're online. Thank you. I just used the words, and apologies before I repeat them, but this wine doesn't float my boat.
Oh, no.
And there's probably, I don't know what it is, but it strikes me as being, I mean, it's certainly got a nice sort of structure to it, and I certainly pick up the leather and the oak initially in it. And then I get the kind of darker fruits, but there's something about it which I just go, it's okay. Maybe I'm just a bit fussy. I'm not the avid fan of Bordeaux that everybody else appears to be. But then you know, it's just my sense about it. You know, I apologies.
Yeah.
No, absolutely no need to apologise. That's what taste buds are for. Alistair, how do you think this rates against some of the other left banks that you've tried?
That's a big question. I've been fortunate enough to try lots of left banks in my life, and I am a big fan of Margaux. As I say, I think this from a good vintage. It may be the oak is still there. As Stephen was saying, you can get the oak, you can get that spice. It is a wine that really, I think this will open up in a decanter really nicely. Put this in a decanter for an hour or two. You'll get more of that perfumed Margaux fruit coming through. But as I said, I think this is a really good. I mean, I'm a Bordeaux nut, so I'm a big fan. So I'm probably quite biased. But I think this is looking really good, and as I say, good value from a really good vintage, but one you can put away, one that can taste now. I do like Margaux. As I say, I'm a big Parma fan. If I can get my hands on Chateau Margaux, I would drink that a lot. I love the wines of Kirwan as well. I mean, I think Margaux is probably my 3rd favourite village after Pauillac and Saint-Julien. But it's this beautiful wine. It's so hard to say. We got here Shelley saying we prefer right bank to left bank. And that's the great thing. Bordeaux is really quite varied. It's going to be so interesting now to see a show of hands, which we can do after tasting the next wine, the Saint-Emilion, to see who's more in the left bank, who's more in the right bank camp. And obviously they're different wines, but it's going to be interesting. So Daniel, we'll have to make sure we look at that when we have a show of hands who's a left banker and who's a right banker.
Absolutely. For me, every time I'm asked, you know, which bank do I like, you know, it's very difficult because I've realized that over the years that I'm big on the left bank, but then, you know, I can't go past a good bottle of right bank either. So I really love both banks, to be perfectly honest. But I think when you look at the Margaux appellation compared to the three villages above Margaux, it really is more of a patchwork as an appellation compared to Saint-Julien, to Pauillac, Saint-Estèphe, in terms of the way the chateau's ownerships of parcels are dispersed through the appellation. And to me, it's one of those, it's the appellation of the left bank that is the most important to taste en primeur before purchasing, because it's one of those appellations that really gets affected by vintage variation, I believe, compared to further north in the Medoc.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It was a brilliant for the Margaux appellation.
Okay, we might, speaking of right bank, as we we might move on to our next one. Again, I'm being conscious of your time here, Daniel.
Thank you.
So before we do that, we've just got our next question. Yeah. So
fantastic. Hopefully I'll get my words right this time. couple of names in there. So question number 2, which chateau has famously commissioned artists such as Andy Warhol, Francis Bacon, and even Charles, Prince of Wales, to design their label? Is it 1, Latour, 2, Chateau Cheval Blanc, 3, Chateau Petrus, or 4, Chateau Mouton Rothschild? So Jane has messaged me and said, not to put too much pressure on it, but this question will decide the fate of the leaderboard. So it's a big one.
Okay.
I'm assuming, Ali, you know this one straight away.
I do indeed, yeah. I'm lucky enough to have a few bottles of this particular chateau stashed away in my cellar. I think I've got 6.
Brad here, and I know I got the last question right. I haven't got a clue, I guess. So let's see what happens.
Beautiful.
Good on you, Brad.
Oh,
good luck.
Yeah, good luck. I've guessed the answer.
Well, Ali, maybe you could tell us off the top of your head which artist designed the labels of the bottles that you own.
Which artist? Oh God, I think I've got the Picasso one. I've got the I've got Miro. I think I have. Goodness me, that's a good question. I've got the 2000, which was a golden glam sort of ram on the label. That might give
give it away slightly.
Time out.
Okay, I reckon that's probably been about a minute. So the answer, well done to everybody who got it right, was Mouton Rothschild. This was started in 1924. Picasso painted some of his famous dancing cubist figures. Salvador Dali has done it with a few squiggles to represent a sheep. Francis Bacon offered an oddly distended grotesque clutching a glass of wine. Charles, Prince of Wales, played it safe with some painted trees. So at least it was a good year, I guess. But yeah, I'm allowed to say that because I'm English. So well done to everybody who got that right. We're going to reveal the winner and obviously spin the wheel of wine at the end of the evening.
Before we go off any further and I pass on to you, Daniel, I must apologise. The bottle images have been switched between the previous one and this one here. So this is the bottle of the first one we just tried, and this was the bottle we'll be trying now. The Le Fleur Penon. My apologies for that. We've had them backwards.
No problem. So, La Fleur Penon is, well, first and foremost, Patrick Carteron The owner there is a good friend of mine. We've known each other for a number of years. Drunk far too much wine together. Believe me, he's not the kind of person you want to get stuck at aperitif with around the table, because he will get his out and plastic plates and countless bottles of wine. Lovely, lovely man. Exuberant like his wines are. He's really the heart of the Carteron family is in the Bordeaux Superior appellation, where he is a producer of note in that appellation, and he always wanted to buy a Saint-Emilion estate, being the Merlot lover that he is. In 2011, he bought La Fleur Penin, which straight away he put the wheels of renovation in motion, built a brand new vat room, and really changed that the style of the wine considerably. It's a wine that we've been importing for a couple of years now, or a couple of vintages, sorry, should I say. It's a chateau is a grand old word or term, yeah, but I mean it's really a house with vats in the back. This is Patrick there, obviously before lunchtime because his nose is a normal color. But it's to me, Saint-Emilion Grand Cru as a term on a bottle covers a lot of sins, let's say. A lot of winemakers of less quality will just rest on their laurels, knowing that on the label it can be Saint-Emilion Grand Cru. What does it mean in a quality product is really based on the product, the quality of the product, or should I say, is really based on a chateau by chateau. So it's about really tasting the wines, and as we said about the 2015, 2016 is a great vintage in Bordeaux as well. This is a 85% Merlot, 15% Cabernet Franc. And to me personally, and I don't particularly like telling people what they should taste, because for me, wine is subjective, but the Cabernet Franc, despite its being only 15% in there, is really singing in the glass in that particular vintage. Very, very good quality oak used in this wine, and just on a normal, just a perfect amount of New York in there. It's not overpowering. It's just quite delicious from the time it was bottled. And look, if you want to zoom out, I'll tell you a little bit about the area, because it's quite a nice area of the right bank. As I said, it's just a Saint-Emilion Grand Cru, so it's not a classified chateau, but again, it's one of those great value for money wines. So you're looking at being that river that is snaking around. There is the Dordogne River. So you're in a more alluvial part of Saint-Emilion, closer to the river, just those sandy gravels, that fine limestone gravels that have eroded from the plateau of Saint-Emilion over the millennia. But as you can see, it's not that far from the village of Saint-Emilion, and then of course from some of the let's say the better-known names like Angelus. It's actually pretty close to chateaus like La Mondotte. Pavie is not that far. You got La Sègue, and then going up the hill in the Chateau La Clotte and so on. So there are some pretty good names in that area, and it's I believe far enough from the river to actually stress the vines just enough to give a little bit more body and tannin structure to the wine. So again, it's a wine that really drinks nicely now, but I believe that it's got a few years ahead of it. This definitely.
Lovely. So this one for me, I mean, that perfume just jumps out of the glass. That absolutely gorgeous, voluptuous perfume. That really is. You could get lost in that wine a bit. That's fantastic, and we're getting a lot of great feedback from a few people that are getting lost in it as well. So.
It's great, isn't it? And I think I love Daniel's comment about the Cabernet Franc and what it adds to this wine. It really does add that crunch and perfume, as you say, on the nose, Mark. And it's going to be interesting to see the show of hands. And as I say, I'm like Daniel. I tend to drink a lot more left bank and Cabernet based Bordeaux. But when you go and you have wines like this on the right bank, and you see how soft and voluptuous they can be, and for me, I get this bloody iodine, almost ferrous character as well. You know, you do think, yeah, and everyone is so down on Merlot in the world. You know, no one drinks Merlot, yet some of the greatest wines of the world, as we can see here, are based on Merlot. And I think this is looking really good. And as Daniel was saying, 2016, you know, after 15 as well, great vintages. But that perfume is leaping out the glass. I think this is showing, for me, probably more than the Prieur-Lichine. This is more exuberant, isn't it? More vibrant.
Definitely agree.
Really lovely one.
So let's do a quick show of hands here, because I really am keen to know. So if you haven't got your video on and you want us to see, please do let us see you. But show of hands, everyone in the room, for the first wine, the Confidence de Prieur-Lichine, left bank, hands up.
Oh, Peter.
1, 2, 3.
Okay.
And then hands down. And then hands up for the La Fleur Pennon. Yeah, that's a lot of hands. Okay, that's a lot of hands. We got some Merlot fanatics here. Beautiful.
Pretty good to see from a country that doesn't like Merlot.
Exactly. For a country where you can't sell Merlot, that's fantastic.
Right.
I think they're both looking really good, Daniel, personally. I think they're lovely wines. And say for anyone, you know, interested in buying Bordeaux, 15 and 16, two fantastic vintages that are just beginning to show well. Of course, they can age. They can put these in the cellar and they'll age amazingly well, but drinking really well now.
And Ali, just to interject this, you probably see in the corner, left-hand corner, limited stock. We really, it's not a sales tactic. We really do mean it. Both of the Bordeaux are in quite low allocation at the moment, so we wouldn't want anybody to miss out as of last week. So if you love them, let us know, and we'd love to set you up with some.
I saw a question, sorry to cut you off, Luc. Just to recap, that was 85% Merlot, that one, and 15 Cabernet Franc. Just saw a question pop up there.
Yeah. So Nick said that Margot now, Saint-Emilion later. I would actually say the reverse. I'd say that Saint-Emilion right now is just looking just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
But I think that the Prieur-Lichine is potentially a bit of a victim right now of being kind of it looks a little bit too young. I think in 5 or 10 years that would potentially be the more superior wine, but I'd love to come back in 5 years and see and see if I'm wrong or not.
I agree, Mark. It's and also, I mean, let's not forget the two different vintages. I mean, yes, they're both great vintages, but to me, I find 16s on the left bank, you couldn't drink them now. They're very shut at the moment. And believe me, I do drink my fair share of Bordeaux all year round, but I mean, I find 16s very tight on the left bank, whereas 15s have been generous from pretty much the time they've been bottled. Whereas on the right bank, higher Merlot content make them approachable, a little bit younger as well. So, and on vintage after vintage.
So hopefully we've created some new Merlot fans here tonight.
I hope so, and I think it's a classic thing, isn't it? And we've all probably seen the movie Sideways, and you know, so we probably know this. He's bagging Merlot all the way through the movie, and then he talks about his favourite wine, which was Chateau Cheval Blanc. I think it was 61 or 64, or probably 61. I can't remember, maybe 64. Which, of course, ironically, is predominantly Merlot. So, you know, even in that movie, which single-handedly destroyed the fate of Merlot globally, there was still a nod to actually his favourite wine was indeed a Merlot and the right bank. The irony.
Okay, so let's, Luke, how much longer do you need for the Wheel of Wine? I'm aware of you.
Give us 2 minutes, Mark. We're just getting everything together, double checking everything, of course.
Okay, that's fine. No worries. In the meantime, I know we do have to farewell Daniel. I know he's got another, he's actually got another tasting on directly after this. And I just wanted to say Daniel, thank you so much for your time tonight. I know it was a bit of a squeeze for you, so I really appreciate it, mate.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure talking about Bordeaux with anybody.
We really appreciate your
Daniel, really appreciate it.
From a more personal note, mate, I hope you're doing okay down in Melbourne.
Yeah, no, we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Just drink some Bordeaux. All
right, have a good night, everyone.
Thanks, Daniel.
Cheers, Daniel.
How about
Daniel?
Have we got any more feedback from anyone here on any of the wines tonight, or any of the wines? Maybe do we have I think I've seen someone chat came up on my screen. Someone, favorite wine of the series, perhaps, while we're wrapping up our 4-week.
Yeah. So Shelley said the Saint Joseph was the best wine overall. I mean, in all honesty, we're going back a long way here now after 4 weeks. But you think about it, up in the north, Champagne, 2 Champagnes and a Chablis. Shelley's just said best white was the Chablis. They're beautiful. Then we went to the east, Alsace, and then we had where else did we go? Into Burgundy, of course, and then into Beaujolais. Then the south, Provence Rosé, Northern Rhone, Southern Rhone, and now, of course, Nick, Saint Joseph as well. Yep, Saint Joseph's getting a lot. I've got to tell Nicolas, he's got to send us some more.
That was Alexandrin, was it? The Saint Joseph?
Yeah, Alexandrin. Yeah. That was looking so. I remember when we tried it last year, we were thinking this is looking good already, but in about a year or so, it's going to look fantastic. And mate, it was looking absolutely beautiful.
That's great, isn't it? That was a wine that we earmarked, and I tasted over here, and we went over to see him, and I'm really glad that went down well, and one that we have exclusively. That's nice to see how it's coming together.
And more, letting everyone know more is on the way. More is definitely on the way.
Yes. I like the spread.
So up in the Hunter, they're liking the white Burgundy, which is fantastic. They love their Shardies up there in the Hunter. Yeah,
Peter Giorgio, what was your favourite?
Hello.
Hello. It's interesting the big vote for the third wine compared to the second. And I was probably one of the few people who put their hands up for the second red. I don't quite know how to express this, but I was very fortunate growing up. My dad's wine cellar was something that I've never been able to replicate, but he did have first sort of growths and Grand Crus, and I grew up drinking a few bottles of Lafite and Latour, and the thing that struck me about those great French wines, especially when other people were at home tasting them with us, was the first sip that you had, they seemed sort of almost understated. They weren't sort of speaking to you. They seemed almost sort of watery. And I think that in Australia, we're used to the big red. You want to get that vibrancy. You want to get the big hit. And sometimes we get fooled by the understated elegance of the great French wines. And that was what it did it for me. I get the third wine. It's a lovely wine, and it's full of pizzazz, and it's doing a lot of stuff. But the second wine for me is just got a subtlety to it, and sometimes you mistake subtlety for the absence of something. It's just sort of simple. I mean, the person
I'd have to agree with you, and from a more personal perspective, when I was a younger man, I worked in the UK wine market for several years, and I remember when I arrived as a wet behind the ears young Australian, and I'd only ever worked in the Australian wine industry and had never really tasted any wines from overseas. And I remember trying French wines especially, and thinking to myself at first, like, what is this watery, light, this, where's the alcohol, where's the fruit, where's the power? But you slowly your palate attunes to it, and you get to you get to appreciate the subtleties, and I think part of the joy of these wines is you've got to go looking for it, and it's part of the journey. And I remember I had kind of changed so much. I'd drunk enough French wine that I went back to an Australian wine at one point, and I went, oh God, it's so obvious, you know, it's so everything's just, you know, kind of punching you in the face. So, I definitely see what you mean.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, it's nice to hear your thoughts there, Peter. I agree with you, and it does take time to tune into those subtleties and refinements, and they are ones that really open up with air, with age. And it's great to see actually in Australia people are drinking far more French wines, I think, and understanding the subtleties of the wine. So lovely to hear.
All right, so Luke, how are we going, mate? Any more time?
We are ready. Let me just gear everything up. One second.
I think did the Starkies have something to say over there?
Yeah, there you go.
Whoop.
I think so.
I'm going to ask you guys to unmute here.
Unmute. You're still on mute.
No.
I think Marianne is looking to do it. So
Hello,
there we go.
There we go.
There?
Yeah.
There we go. We're on.
No, I just wanted to make a comment. We've loved all the comments. We've feverishly been caressing the palate. The Sancerre was magnificent. The second one, which I have said, the second wine. I missed the name of the critic there, but I did appreciate or agree with one part of that, was that he did say, and I apologise for not knowing your name, he couldn't actually place that or what is it, and you know, that combination or whatever. It was a good wine, don't get me wrong. The third wine we loved here, and the reason we loved that third wine is because it hits the palate. It's like a beautiful silky. There's something there. You know, it's lingering. You know, I don't want to get into any references that I shouldn't have here, but it was just a gorgeous. It was a gorgeous taste, and I'm still having it there. I've just had a couple more tastes. And when you talk, wine it's the palate, it's the experience, it's the whatever. And I think the third wine, to me, is a lay down Mazère purchase for us, because there's something. It's got the X factor. The second one, I appreciate everyone's advanced, taste buds or whatever. The second wine, good, but I'm still trying to picture. I can't pitch it. But then the Sancerre, like we're just ordering up, that's an outrageous wine. We love that. John Starkey, we're going. Michael, phone us. Michael, phone us. But really, it really is a personal thing, isn't it? But the third one, to us, there was just some silky, smooth inner thigh there that we loved. Thank you.
Anthony, sign him up. Sign him up now.
You'll be getting calls.
I love actually an important thing that I just replied to Sally, who I think she said that you had it with the ribeye steak. And here, there's something we haven't touched on here with food. These really are food wines. Those tannins, those fine-grained tannins, and the oak-infused tannins as well that you get on these wines, especially the Priolicine as well, I would say, really do come into their own with food, with steak, with red meat, and I'm sure these wines really do improve with food as well. So I've no doubt that a ribeye steak was an absolute winner with both of those reds, actually.
Amazing.
Mouton, bit of lamb is also perfect.
Bit of lamb as well. Yeah. Well, if you go to any chateau actually on the left bank, you pretty much. I mean, no one's going to feel sorry for, but when you go there, you get stuff full of foie gras and lamb. and cheese pretty much every meal, and it's great for about 2 days. But then you do feel a little bit ill, as Peter's nodding, and he's obviously had the same experience as well.
He struggled to get out of bed. Definitely struggled to get out of bed.
First world problems: too much foie gras, cheese, and roast lamb.
Too much gout. Yes.
A little bit of gout.
All right, so we're going on to the Wheel of Wine. We are good to go. Beautiful.
So well done. Well done to everybody who got a correct answer there. Thank you very much. We always appreciate it. And we're going to give it a spin. So this is for your wine of the evening, and then we're going to reveal the leaderboard in a second. So good luck.
This is it.
I think that's the busiest I've ever seen it. That's incredible.
A lot there, isn't there?
Richard.
Oi, Richard.
Well done, Richard. So let's just stop that. Now, for the big reveal of the leaderboard, I'm going to throw over to my good colleague, Jane, and Jane can give us the winners, or the winner.
Okay, so this is a perfect scenario. So bit of an interesting one tonight. Actually, in second place was Richard. So he got the consolation prize after all, which worked out really well. So congratulations, Richard. You almost got it, but you still got a prize. We actually have a tie. So yes, but don't worry, we were prepared for that. I thought that might be a problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a tiebreaker. So our two leaders are Brad, you guessed right, so good guess, and Rachel Thompson. So you two have been absolute wine knowledge gurus on these quizzes. So I will just get you both to unmute just to make sure that I've got you both there.
Off camera as well. Yes.
Okay, Rachel, perfect. And Brad, awesome.
Hi, Rachel.
Okay, so I'm actually going to get you guys to text in, but you got like, 10 seconds because no Googling allowed on this one. No Googling. So the answer to this question is a year. So don't worry about your names. Just text in your year as your guess because I've got you guys. I know I've got your phone numbers. I know who's who. So basically the person who guesses closest to the correct year will be the winner. And I'm hoping you both don't guess the same thing.
Do you guys need a reminder of the text number?
No.
You guys have it in your phone.
You got it?
They've been avid texters, so I'm pretty sure they've got it saved on speed dial. Okay, so this question, pay attention to this question because I'm hoping it's a bit of a trick question. Okay, so the question is, when was the Sorry guys, I'm just echoing somewhere. Okay, there we go, cool. Okay, when was the AOC system created in Bordeaux? So that's the Appellation d'Origine Contrôlée system created in Bordeaux. All right, go.
AOC system in Bordeaux.
The AOC.
Year? And we're gonna go closest to the exact year. One answer only, please. No Googling.
From the AOC to AOP.
I thought you were going to do who can drink a glass of Sancerre.
That would have been better.
A faster drinker of Sancerre.
They changed to AOP.
All right, answers are in.
Answers are in.
Okay.
How did you know that? All right.
Yes.
Yeah, Rachel, you're our winner. I mean, I thought that was a hard question. You got that. Bang on.
Yes.
I was hoping everyone would assume I was talking about the famous Bordeaux classification of 1855, and I'd kind of trick people there. But very well done. The answer's 1936. So, and you got that exactly right, Brad. Good effort. But congratulations, Rachel. I'll be in touch with you tomorrow to sort out that prize pack for you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Rachel. That is amazing. Fantastic.
She's
You
pretty
should
smart.
do the wine course as well, because that's pretty good knowledge. Jeez.
Okay, so that wraps us up, ladies and gents. That wraps us up for 4 weeks. It has been absolutely fantastic to have you here for these past 4 weeks. I hope you got something out of it more than just a glass of wine, although I'm sure that was nice too. It has been my great pleasure and honour to bring you these every week. It's been something I genuinely look forward to every Thursday evening, and I must put in, my wife enjoys it as well. Some of you might have seen her popping her head in and stealing a glass of wine every couple of minutes. So I very much appreciate you guys coming along to this. Without you, of course, this is pointless. So we very much appreciate it. I just want to also say a massive thank you to my team, without whom I definitely would not be able to do anything near what I've done. Luke, Jane, and Ali, you've been amazing. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Just from me to everyone, as much as Mark looks forward to his Thursday evenings, I look forward to sharing my Thursday morning from here in the UK. So it's been great. And as we talked about at the beginning, I'm hopefully, coronavirus permitting, be heading off to the Rhone, and we will be covering some of that. We'll have some fun, interesting, interactive tastings that we'll be letting you know about soon. So please keep your eye on the United, I think the social media, etc., and I'll update you with my musings from the Rhone Valley. So look forward to sharing this with you. And thank you all for joining in and being such a great participants.
And just to mention on my side, obviously we have Rippon and Head upcoming, as well as, you know, if you're interested, we'd love to host your socially distanced Christmas party. And of course, for the guys who have picked up the breakout room wine, I'll be opening that in a second. But yeah, from me, it's been the highlight of my week. I love organising them in terms of the back end sort of stuff. We're going to be sending out a feedback form as we have done every week. And so thank you everybody who's filled those out so far. Any ideas are welcome. This is a bit of a working project for us, as you could probably tell. So if you want to go and explore a region, let us know and we'll try and put it together. So thanks again for coming.
Great point, Luke. And honestly, this 4-week tasting came literally from the feedback of someone from the Italian 4-week tasting. So, I mean, with us, the sky's the limit, truly. If there's something that you really want to get into, then please just let us know, and we will we'll absolutely we'll try and make it happen. So yeah, and also from a more personal perspective, on as Luke was mentioning about the Christmas tastings, we're well aware that Christmas parties will not be the same as they have been in previous years. So we thought it would be a really good idea to offer our services if they can be used. So just if you've got other people who could who are interested, just let them know, and we can organise something to your price point, organise something to your and just get the wines delivered to your house, and just give you 10 minutes of wine nerd stuff, and then leave you to yourselves. So
good stuff. And obviously everybody is welcome to stay in the Zoom if you want to chat amongst yourselves. I think that Jane will be staying in the main room. So if you guys have got any questions to get answered, I'm sure Jane would love to. Also, Jane can pick up any orders that you guys want to grab straight off the bat. I know the Sancerre looks pretty popular, and both of the Bordeaux's this week as well. So brilliant. So thank you, everybody.
okay, has everyone got everyone's got their wine ready to go? Our last and very, very special wine.
Only for about the last 25 minutes.
Stephen, desperate to get into his Do Me Long. Don't blame you.
Thought, you know, historically, I have a real preference to the left bank, so I was a little bit surprised that I didn't like the Margaux, but
that was quite interesting.
Your arm's been twisted for the Pauillac, eh?
Yeah, well, we went straight there.
Did you, Steve, did you decant this one, the Duat Mignon? Or have you...
We decanted all the wines, double decanted them about 3 hours ago.
Brilliant. I'm caravanning mine, so because it is only 10:45 in the morning. So,
Alistair, we have some friends here this evening, Les and Margaret Gock, and Les has spent his career in the music industry, and he seems to think you are a natural for a gig on TV.
Absolutely.
Is that right? Well, okay, I'll have to see what I can do. I've actually just been asked to do some TV, but for Channel 5 over here, it's something very small.
I was making some comments about your voice and your style, and
you're perfect for it. So create the show, and well, obviously around wine and
Well, it's the obvious subject, isn't it? Well, that's very kind and very nice to hear, and it's probably better than having a face for radio, I think.
or telephone sales.
The guys on radio often do better than even the guys on TV.
They are. That's very true. But well, that's very kind. I shall see what I can do about getting a TV series going.
We can always help you.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I might give you a shout.
Wine and rugby. That's your specialities.
Yeah, rugby's my other speciality. If we can combine the two, I've actually thought of doing that because there are quite a lot of rugby guys who, certainly in South Africa, who are involved in wine, and in France as well, Gérard Bertrand, and there's a few other, there's about 10, 12 rugby guys who've got wineries. So maybe that could be the first show.
There is a contest every year here in the Southern Hemisphere called the Tri-Nations.
Yes.
And it's lined up actually with the Tri-Nations between Australia, New Zealand and South Africa.
Oh, really? What? And they do a wine competition that they do in conjunction with it?
Rugby.
Pretty much.
Stephen, it's actually been expanded to the Six Nations now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, of course, you've got Argentina involved there as well.
Yeah, Argentina.
Another 4 nations, isn't it? So you've got Argentina, which is, obviously they make some great wine.
We probably don't need to go there, but yes. So I got a commentary earlier this evening about doing something at a more intensive level about Southern Rhone.
About Southern Rhone, yeah, I think we talked about that, and I think when I go to the Rhone in a few weeks, and I will, as we say, I'm going to see if I can get hold of some exclusive stuff over here that I can get shipped over, some Rayas or whatever we can. If we can do something like that, I would love to do it, or some Beaucastel. But I will, my trip to the Rhone hopefully should throw up some really interesting things, and hopefully get you guys some access to some top stuff as well.
That'll be wonderful.
Okay, that sounds like it's number 1 on the hit list, I think. Anthony, we've got to get that one sorted, haven't we?
Definitely.
Okay,
so I'll just say a few words about the wine you've got in front of you. This breakout room, I don't want to be overly formal. I just want to touch on a few items about what makes this wine special. I'm more comfortable with us all having just more of a kind of group conversation, being the smaller group here. But just a few notes on Duat Mignon. So obviously, as you can see at the top of your bottle, this little symbol up here. The property is owned by the Rothschild family. So now this is usually, one of the reasons I like this wine, and this has been a favourite of mine since I used to work in the UK wine scene, where it was disgracefully cheap compared to a lot of the other ones. A lot of the other kind of, especially Pauillac. And Ali, I'm with you. Pauillac is absolutely my number 1. It's just insanely kind of head and shoulders above the others.
It's tasting great. So I just tasted it for the first time, and I'm quite happy.
So it's this is invariably it's kind of half the price of the Carrois de Lafite, which is the second wine of Chateau Lafite, and this is half the price of that. And if you think about it, you look at where it is, and Luke's got the screen up here, the map of where this wine is, just the provenance of the location. This, you'd be hard pressed to make a bad wine here. It's just
it's funny you should say that, because interestingly enough, it used to be known back in the 1815, 1820. I'm a big fan of Duat Mignon since about 2003, 2004. It was known, it had the same ownership as as Lafite back then, and was essentially known as Lafite's second wine. It then underwent a change of ownership several times and was bought by the Rothschild family, I think in 1963, 1964, around there. But it had real ups and downs, and it was on a real downward curve when the Rothschilds bought it. They've since doubled the plantings, I believe, and it's one of the only chateaus. It actually doesn't have a cellar. So this chateau that we see on the front of the label, the wine isn't made there. It's made in a cellar that's nowhere near where the actual chateau is, in the middle of Pauillac. So it's a bit of a misnomer, but there's a huge amount of investment went into this wine by the Rothschilds, and that was around 2000 where they really started turning on the style with this wine, with the new winery, and then its popularity went flying with the Asian interest in Chateau Lafite. And I actually bought a case of this wine. My eldest daughter was born in 2005. And I bought 2 cases of this wine for £220 a case. Robert Parker then gave it, I think, 95 or 96 points. Within 6 months, those cases were worth £1,500 each. So they'd gone from 210 to something pounds up to £1,500 due to that massive, massive boom in anything to do with Lafite. From the Chinese market predominantly. So the prices have since gone back down, but I was really happy for a while, and I kept hold of them stupidly for my eldest daughter, who's not interested in wine at all. I should have sold one of them.
She'll get there, mate. She'll get there.
I'll get there. But since, and I followed Duarte Milon since then, and consistently they're making very, very, very good wines. This 2016, as we touched on, one of the greatest years. Bordeaux has been blessed since 2000 with fantastic years in 2000, 2005, 9, 10, and 16, I would say, are the best vintages. And this is looking really smart. This is very tight. I wish I'd decanted this as you guys have, Stephen, and probably Peter, I'm pretty sure, has been decanted this a few hours ago as well. But this is looking smart, isn't it?
Oh, very, very smart.
Absolutely gorgeous. I mean, for me, Pauillac is, it's kind of the golden triangle, so to speak. I mean, there's no massive shock that you've got. I mean, you've got Saint-Estèphe on the north, you've got Saint-Julien, which for me is my kind of second favorite, Saint-Julien. But yes. I mean, there's a reason why of the 5 Premier Cru, 3 of them exist within Pauillac that kind of indicate something to you, I would think. But I mean, and then on top of that, it's 3 of the top 5, and then 2 of the top second growths, and the one for me where the value is. I mean, I remember when I was working in the UK, d'Armagnac, which is a 5th growth. We used to be able to buy. This is when I worked at Majestic. We were buying bottles of that. I think it was £35 for the 05, and it was just
d'Armagnac. Actually, isn't d'Armagnac? Which is the one? Is that a 5th growth, or is it a Cru Bourgeois? And it's d'Angleday, isn't it? It's a 5th growth, and it's d'Angleday, which is a Cru Bourgeois, great value as well. But yeah, I'd be great to see what you guys think about, if you have favourite, villages. For me, I agree. I think Pauillac is just there's something so special about that. The typical things you'd say, the pencil shavings, the intense cassis character that you get. For me, I'm like Marc. I love Saint-Julien 2nd, and I like the elegance of Margaux 3rd. Saint-Estèphe, the power for me is sometimes is probably my least favourite. But how about you guys, Peter? Do you have a preference?
I think this is a beautiful one. This 4th one, and I think it just adds a little bit of the 3rd wine to the 2nd wine. It does have a little punch to it, a little life to it that the 2nd one that I liked before.
Yeah.
But it's still for me a very elegant soft wine. It doesn't hit you in the face, but there's a lot of interesting things happening there. There are a lot more taste to this than the 2nd wine, and so it's got the subtlety, the elegance, but it's also interesting.
Yeah. It's so alive, isn't it? There's so much vibrancy and mouth-filling fruit, and Actually, I'm surprised. You know, as I said, I've just corvinned this straight from the bottle, and I'm quite surprised actually how well that is drinking, because 16, and I think Daniel said it earlier on, you know, the 16 left banks are tight, really, really tight. And this is tight, no doubt about it. But I think there's some lovely flesh and fruit showing here. It's not as showy as maybe 2010, but this is tasting absolutely delicious.
So just to clarify, there's been a question on the chat here about understand the difference between the growths. So basically, in 1855, which is something I mentioned in one of the screens before, 1855, there was a classification of the growths. It was basically a separation of from first to fifth of, and it was not necessarily like a Grand Cru, Premier Cru system like you would find in Burgundy. It was more, I believe it was done on how much people were paying, how valuable the wines, the value of the wines.
Pretty much, yeah.
And I mean, this has always been one of the most interesting things about when you're studying French wines. That for me, between Bordeaux and Burgundy, which are the two major wine regions of France, the two kind of, you know, constantly back and forth as kind of best or second best, there is such a great divide when you've got Burgundy, which is based around the church and based around the research of the specific plot of land and the Grand Cru, and then you've got Bordeaux, which talks about it's basically about trade. It's what sells best. So, and that's what the growth system is based on. So, the first 5, and there was actually 4 to start with. The Mouton Rothschild snuck in. A few years later, they found their way into becoming a first growth. They originally were a second growth. However, the first growth were the most expensive and most highly rated wines by the traders, and then the second growth, third growth, fourth growth, fifth growth.
It was done in 1855 by Napoleon II they were having the World Fair in Paris, and Napoleon wanted to show off the great wines of Bordeaux. He believed that it was the greatest region in France. So he wanted to classify the wines and show them in front of the world and say, these are the first growths, these are the second growths. And as Mark said, it was pretty much done on price at the time. And in many ways, it's a pretty antiquated system, because obviously, as we've seen, you know, Duart Milon is a fourth growth, is it? Duart Milon? Fourth, yeah. And Duart Milon has, you know, certainly 100 years ago was nowhere near the quality of fourth growth, and there was some what you call cru bourgeois. So you have first, second, third, fourth, fifth growth, and then you have what they call cru bourgeois. There were many of those that were outperforming these. So largely, in all honesty, those the wines that have been classified, largely it does still follow that way, that they're still in that scale producing the best wines. But yeah, the only change that there's been, that one change in 1973 was through tireless work by Baron Eric, I think, was the promotion of Mouton Rothschild to a first growth, but otherwise it stayed the same. So it is an antiquated system, and it was not done at all on soil mapping or anything like that, because these guys, you know, they'll own about 100, I think they own about 100, 150 hectares. And actually the interesting difference is Duart Milon can go and buy any land in Pauillac, any land, and it can go into their blend. So it's not anything to do with vineyards, it's just from that commune. So it's a very different system to Burgundy. And, you know, the prices, as I said, I think Lafite have 150 hectares. I mean, they've got huge amounts of land and they're producing huge amounts of wine, whereas Burgundy is often just one small road.
And yeah, I mean, you look at the numbers of apparently Mouton Rothschild is apparently the one that they have even more. They own even more land, and apparently the number of bottles of Mouton Rothschild released every year is quite remarkable.
It's quite astonishing, and that's led to this growth in second wines, third wines, and I think even fourth wines in some circumstances. Well, Duart Milon now have 3 wines. They have Duart Milon, they have Moulin de Duart, and they have another one called something Milon, something Duart. I can't remember what the third one is. Yeah, that's a brief one on that. Any other thoughts? Anyone want to? Stephen, have you guys got any thoughts on this one? How's it looking?
I like this one a lot. I feel it kind of finds, I mean, I find it very young as a wine, very young in its style. I mean, I feel that the Cabernet fruit still hasn't settled. It's not as balanced, but I can see that it has all the structure. I picked up on the same notes you picked up on the cassis. It's incredibly distinct. And then you kind of get this leatheriness behind it, which I think is primarily playing out of the oak and some of the other stuff that's going on. I mean, I think it'll be a brilliant wine in 5, 6, 8 years' time.
Yeah, I agree with everything you say. And I think it's also a wine that's going to age for 30, 40 years effortlessly, you know, probably more, you know, up to 50 years for a wine like this if cellared correctly. It's a very, very, very classy wine. But it's fun though, isn't it? That it's, as you say, it is showing now. It's showing well now. It's drinking well now. You can appreciate it now.
To me, it's a much more interesting wine than the Margaux. I just found the Margaux maybe a little bit too soft, maybe a little bit too light, and I couldn't see that it was carrying its fruit. But this carries its fruit. I mean, I can see the fruits there, and I think as the oak will settle, it'll become a more a balanced wine. I think it's got a lot going for it, and I think sitting as a fourth with the history of Lafite and all of their competency, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's well worthwhile considering.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great feedback, and I agree. I think, I mean, if we, to be fair to the Prieuré Chine, this is probably how much more expensive is it? 4 or 5 times more expensive?
Yeah, it's a little bit more expensive. Yeah,
I can't remember how much it was.
But by Poirier standards, incredibly good value.
I totally agree. Yeah, absolutely right. And that's why, you know, it's a wine that I've bought. And when I was so happy when I bought that in 05, when they were just coming into their own and producing, you know, good wines. And thanks to Robert Parker for giving it such a wonderful score, the price went up of this wine. But I say, I'm not going to sell any of the wines I've got. They're to be drunk by myself. They're safely in the cellar waiting. But no, Duat Milon, it's no secret anymore that they're making great wines, but still good value for money.
Brilliant value for money.
I must put in there. We have 7 bottles of this. I've just looked. We have 7 bottles of this left. That's not a sales pitch. That's just the truth, I'm afraid.
Cold hard truth.
Yeah, we have 7 bottles left. So yeah, this one went pretty quick.
I'm not surprised. Any other thoughts? Anyone want to chip in or ask any questions?
I think everyone's pretty happy with that one.
Excellent.
Anything from you, Mr. Gattis? Any comments from you? No, you're still on mute.
No, we can't hear you. No, he's not on mute. We just can't hear you, man.
He's unmuted the wrong one, I think.
No.
I'm keen to see what the actual Gattas cellar looks like, rather than the green screen.
Not quite as glamorous as that, I'll be honest. I've been into it. Ali and I have been there.
The good news is both Ali and... my feedback. Sorry, too many screens. The good news is that both Ali and Mark have visited the cellar and tasted a little bit from the cellar.
Good fun.
We have, and there's some cracking stuff in there. You're right. It's not quite the cellar.
No, it's not ready yet. It's part of the renovations. But the good news is we have a warehouse where there's a little bit more.
Just a bit more. Just a bit more.
So they've seconded my fridges, which need to be replaced. So there's a few upgrades going on. So now hopefully these bottles will help with that process. And I will say that, but unfortunately tonight. Sadly, since I'm not drinking for the last week or two, I think my last drink was almost with Stephen last week. So I didn't get a chance to enjoy the wines tonight, but hopefully in the next few weeks I will.
Hopefully our descriptors have amused you enough. So.
Yeah. Well, but for the gorgeous Ali that's entertaining and a celebrity.
Well, I'm not quite a celebrity, but I'm going to work on that TV show idea.
I can see the wheels of opportunity turning.
Yeah. Okay, let's see what we can do.
You just can't call it the wine show.
No, I can't. No, I was tasting with Joe Fattorini the other day actually, and he's doing quite a lot on TV. He's very good actually. He's doing quite a lot. But yeah,
I think we'll have there'll be an episode with Ali's Great Adventures Through Rhone coming up, the en primeur.
Yeah, we'll have to do. I'll do some video clips and snaps. We'll come up with a little plan of what we can do, and yeah, maybe we can do our own United Cellars sponsored TV show. How about that? When we can travel again properly, of course, because I need to come and see your new cellar.
Well, maybe it's just the United Cellars YouTube.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Well, that's been getting busier and busier and busier with all these tastings.
We've even got our own producer coming on board, Mr. Luke Paul.
The Graham Norton of the wine world.
Oh no, I've been termed with the Graham Norton again.
Graham Norton's fantastic. He's a wonderful entertainer.
No, he is, and he does great wines.
He does, well, he does Sauvignon Blancs in New Zealand, doesn't he? He does.
Yeah, he loves Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc.
Well, I was talking to someone today actually about, not today, but recently, who I think it was Joe Fattorini actually, and he was invited to the blending session where Graham Norton goes and really gets involved, hands-on with blending these wines. He hasn't got a clue. He hasn't got a clue at all.
Zero.
But he does get involved, and he does say, "I like that one," and they do apparently listen to him. But yeah,
he's got a gin now too, so all's good. Has
he got a gin? Has he? Well, why not? I mean, Kylie's got her own rosé as well now. I don't know why we're not stocking that.
You can't get it here. It's only sold in the UK. You can't get it.
No, it's just coming to Australia now. It's just being released.
I don't. On all accounts, it's not. Very fantastic, but I don't. I think it's Languedoc. But I haven't tasted it.
Lamborghini Champagne. Yeah, good call.
I love Kylie, so I'm not going to say anything bad about her.
You're not allowed. She's a national treasure. No bad things shall be said about her.
Ali, which celebrity has the best wine? I was interested to try John Malkovich's up in the Rhone. Have you tried any of those?
Oh, I haven't tried John Malkovich's. No.
Honestly, we did sorry to interrupt. We did a blind tasting of a few of them, and you know what came out on top? That Chateau Miraval, the Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie.
It's a good one, isn't it?
That was actually really good.
No, they're really good wines, and they are, they are very, very good, and I, drink that relatively regularly. They're great wines. John Bon Jovi. I was lucky enough to go truffle hunting with John Bon Jovi.
Here we go.
Look, I just got, that did happen.
You should make a TV show about this, mate.
Well, there's a thought. So he released a wine with Gérard Bertrand in the Languedoc, and it was actually his son Jesse and him, called Diving into Hampton Waters. So obviously in rosés all the rage, and in the Hamptons they drink rosé, so they created this wine. And it makes it sound very personal. I think I was one of 150 attendees to go truffle hunting with John Bon Jovi, and then we had a 10-course truffle gala dinner. It was wonderful, but that certainly wasn't the best celebrity wine that I've tasted. Francis Ford Coppola makes some great wines now in the Inglenook estate in California. They're certainly on the up. They're making some great wines there. Other great celebrity wines? Who else is making? I believe Snoop Dogg is now making some Zinfandel from Lodi. I'm not sure that's going to be top of the list either.
I'm just not. I'm not confident. I'm just not.
Mr. Snoop Dogg should keep to what he does best in terms of other drugs. I'm not sure.
Mr. Double G.
I think about that. There are lots of. Trudy and Sting. They have a wine that they make in Chianti. Mick Hucknall of Simply Red used to make a wine down in Sicily, but I think he's stopped doing that now.
Probably at our end of the world, you need to consider Sam Neill.
Well, of course, Sam Neill.
Yeah, two paddocks.
absolutely right, and they're great wines.
There's time
Yeah,
there.
they're very good.
Involved in it. It's
Yeah.
not a superficial pastime. I mean, he's clearly deeply involved in the production of those wines.
Yeah, he is.
As Otago style goes, I mean, he's right up there.
I totally agree, and I think I've been fortunate to meet Sam a couple of times when he's been over here, and he is. I mean, he's a deeply intelligent man and cares very much and is extremely knowledgeable. And I totally agree. You know, I have my reservations about some Otago wines. They can be a little bit viscous, a little bit what's the word?
Full of glycerol?
Glycerol, exactly. They can be glycerol-y and quite big. And I think Sam's wines, as far as Otago go, I mean, you know, there's some great wines, Felton Road, etc. There's a beautiful amount of difficulty, some beautiful wines, but the two paddocks really are cracking wines, and he is properly involved, unlike Graham Norton and Snoop Dogg and the likes, and probably Kylie, dare I say it as well.
Well, that's Stephen's actually pointed out a good one, that the Caduceus cellars from I'm not sure if you've heard of these, Ali. They're absolutely fascinating. It's a lead singer of a very, very, very heavy metal band, Maynard James Keenan, and he makes in Arizona. He makes wines, which is fascinating.
I was actually invited. So a good friend of mine, Jose Vuillamos, who co-wrote the Wine Grapes book with Jancis, and Jose is a good friend of mine. We've done various things together, and he's best mates with James Maynard Keenan from Tool, and I was actually invited to go to a Tool concert and meet him and taste all his wines over in the States, but I couldn't make it. But no, I didn't know it's called Caduceus Cellar, but I am aware of his wines. I think they are quite interesting. Yeah, making wines in Arizona, and apparently they are interesting.
He's a fascinating character. Apparently, there's a famous photo of him. He found out that his wines were vegan. Not by choice, he just was told that someone told him that his wines were vegan. So he plucked a hair from his beard and put it in the wine to make it not vegan.
Is that right? Does that make it not vegan?
Yeah, well, it's got like an animal in it. So, yeah.
Okay. I like that. That's quite a nice little touch. That is quite a nice touch. But name dropper, I like that. Yeah, well, you know, you got to. Yeah. I try to think of anyone. No, I haven't. No, I don't think of anyone else. But no one in Bordeaux, really, I can think of that's...
Bordeaux and Burgundy seem to be immune to this, yeah.
Wow, I think it's...
price differential access.
Yeah, absolutely. I think celebs want something with a bit of volume that they can... Oh, of course, you've got Jay-Z with Ace of Spades, making... Champagne after Cristal sort of... After the comments that Cristal made about not wanting him really to be associated with the brand.
Cartier, yeah.
So, yes.
Alistair, I think you've got the making of a great idea here. I don't know if anybody remembers this because it's going a long way back, but when I was living in Canada, I saw a TV show that featured the great cities of the world. So being a Canadian show, it started in Toronto. It included Sydney, London, Rio, etc.
Yeah.
And the way that they ran the show was each episode was run by a local person.
Okay.
I can't remember the Canadian. He was a concert pianist. It's just slipped my mind right now. Who did Toronto? Sydney, believe it or not, was done by Jermaine Greer, and he did an absolutely fantastic job of talking about Sydney. I mean, it shocked me at the time, but beautiful. And all the cities were really good. So here's your idea. Find all these celebrities and the wine area they represent and just have a show featuring that wine area with you and the celebrity. It's going to be a winner.
Peter, I'm liking your thinking here. That is a very good idea because I think, essentially, and I've talked a lot to people about how do you make wine interesting on TV? Because, let's look at a glass of wine, and we're fortunate now to be drinking Duat Milan, beautiful wine. But, if you're talking to Joe Public and you're talking to most people about the wine in the glass, it just looks like a glass of wine. It is just a glass of wine. It's unlike food where you eat with your eyes and you see this beautiful presentation. You feel you can make it at home and you invest in it, visually. Wine all looks the same. It doesn't look exciting. So I think you have to have things that go onto it, like history, like geography, like celebrities, like something to keep people interested. So I think I like that. What percentage of the fee would you like when I get this introduction?
Ali, I'd start with Kylie and Angelina Jolie, Saint-Tropez. There's your first episode.
Mate, do you know what? I think Aspen, my girlfriend's listening at the door, and I think,
oh mate, be careful.
I'm not so sure she'd be so keen on that. She might prefer me to go with John Bon Jovi or something like that. I wouldn't mind doing Snoop Dogg though. That would be quite fun as well. But I'll go with Luke. Do you know what? I'll see what Angelina and Kylie have to say about that. That's definitely a good first stop.
All right,
Brilliant.
with that team, I think I'm gonna have my dinner now. It might be time. I'm looking at all these amazing meals that everyone's serving up in the Gourmet house.
Look at that.
And I want to say thank you everyone for joining us. I know you guys have joined us almost every week in this breakout, so I really appreciate it. It's been good to spend a bit more time and run through. We haven't focused too much on the wine, I must be honest, but
everyone can enjoy it now at leisure. By the looks of it, with a beautiful meal at the Gourmet, I'm going to go and have a croissant for my breakfast and maybe a glass of this with my lunch. We'll see what I have to do. But thank you all. It's been so much fun. And yeah, I love the idea, Stephen. I'll look at what we can do for the Rhone. Any other ideas that you'd like to do, let's get them there. And these, we can do a larger one, we can do a small intimate one, we can do whatever. However we want to do it. But thank you to everyone for joining and making my Thursday morning so much fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers, team.
Thanks, everyone. See you all soon. Enjoy your dinner.